The new Star Wars movies have fans asking a lot of questions. Who are Rey's parents? Is this a prequel? And what's a Mary Sue? That last one has led to a number of contentious arguments, as defenders of Star Wars' honor try to spread misinformation about the term. First off, Max Landis did not create it when he famously, or infamously to some, labeled Rey a Mary Sue. The term was actually coined in 1973 by a woman, Paula Smith, when she decided to call out the unrealistic female characters popping up in Star Trek fan fiction. Now, to be fair, perhaps those strong characters were being created because Star Trek itself created so few beyond fodder for Kirk's conquests. But in their efforts to represent, Smith clearly felt this fan fiction was overcompensating. A Trekkie's Tale, published in fanzine Menagerie No. 2, told the short story of Mary Sue, a 15-and-a-half-year-old who was the youngest lieutenant ever in Starfleet history. And while A Trekkie's Tale is a very short story, like half a page, it still chronicled how Lieutenant Mary Sue was able to master everything she tried her hand at, while Kirk, Spock, and McCoy all fell in love with her. Revealed to also be half Vulcan, Lieutenant Mary Sue quickly became the captain of the Enterprise, saved the day with her hairpin, and while all the male characters were in the sickbay, she continued to command the Enterprise, an endeavor which won her every prize known to man. Ultimately, though, Lieutenant Mary Sue perished from the same disease that had made the male characters sick, dying young and beautiful with Kirk, Spock, and McCoy cursing her death. And of course, her birthday was made into a national holiday on the Enterprise. You can read the original story by clicking the link in the video description, and author Smith continued to use the term as she and her editor, Sharon Ferraro, continued to comment on genre storytelling over the years. In fact, Mary Sue and the Bechdel test, which was created 10 years later by another woman, cartoonist Alison Bechdel, have become the most influential terms regarding how women are depicted in entertainment. But interestingly, while the Bechdel test is pretty cut and dry, Mary Sue has become less clear, especially as the popular femme-centric website, The Mary Sue, has tried to take ownership of the term and make it positive. Fascinatingly, The Mary Sue was actually launched and is still owned by Abrams Media, which stands for Dan Abrams, the MSNBC correspondent who has a child with his girlfriend, 13 years his junior, who he's never married. One imagines that such a man wasn't overly familiar with the term Mary Sue, and certainly not its importance. But Landis reiterated how derogatory the term is. A Mary Sue is never humanized by struggle and failure, and she's often the only woman in a sea of men, which of course promotes women not supporting each other because they're competing for just one spot. The term Mary Sue was not created to tear down female heroic characters. Ellen Ripley isn't a Mary Sue because she takes a backseat for most of the action for the first part of the movie. She's overruled by her male robot co-worker when it comes to upholding quarantine. She needs to be saved when that robot tries to kill her, and she never even guessed he was a robot. Sarah Connor isn't a Mary Sue because she's unable to save Kyle Reese, ends up locked in a mental institution, is a poor parent, and can't complete her mission without the help of the T-800 and her son. Furiosa isn't a Mary Sue because she's missing half an arm, she's not part of Immortan Joe's harem and he doesn't want her to be, she's unable to defeat Mad Max in hand-to-hand combat, she needs Mad Max's help when her escape plan goes wrong, she discovers she's unable to go home after all, and most of the women she teams up with end up dead. In contrast, Rey turns out to be the second-to-last Jedi who has a connection to the Force more powerful than anyone has ever seen before. She is so special that Supreme Leader Snoke wants her captured alive, and Kylo Ren seems infatuated with her as well. Finn definitely has a crush on her, and Han Solo treats her like the daughter he wished he'd had. She easily defeats the highly trained Kylo Ren the first time she ever picks up a lightsaber, is a gifted mechanic who can fix anything, and can outmaneuver experienced TIE fighter pilots in a very old, very large starship that hasn't flown in years. Then, despite Leia being his actual sister, it's virtual stranger Rey who gets the honor of going, by herself, to find the man everyone's been searching for, all while behind the wheel of the Millennium Falcon, which is now her personal ride. And it only takes her like 20 minutes to find him. She doesn't even need to change clothes or take a nap. See the difference? Now, I know the Force is strong, and many are claiming there are plenty of Gary Stus that nobody ever complains about. But let's not forget that Luke Skywalker unknowingly fell in love with his own sister, was not as cool as Han Solo, had to be saved on Hoth by Han Solo, lost a major fight to Darth Vader where he also lost his hand, and of course, here's the big one, was unable to sense the darkness in his nephew and apprentice Ben Solo, who betrayed him and killed all of Luke's students, effectively making Luke responsible for the virtual extinction of the Jedi. As for other Gary Stus, I'm sure some exist, but the most popular male action heroes, from Indiana Jones to John McClane to even Daniel Craig's James Bond, who won over fans as the first Bond to have a chip on his shoulder and fear old age, are flawed individuals who fail as often as they succeed. Ultimately, let's remember that the term Mary Sue was created and is still used to remind storytellers that audiences simply want female characters like that. Heck, let's not forget that Katniss Everdeen, the star of the most successful female-driven franchise of all time, is as flawed and as familiar with failure as they get. So now that you actually know what a Mary Sue is, go forth and debate responsibly and hopefully proactively on the internets.